Heyo everybody, Haku here with my live reaction to read through for Tower of God chapter 635 or season 3 episode 218. I'm very excited to get to reading. Again, as I always am, usual same old Tower of God intro. Yeah, I think that last week was a fairly solid way to end things off where we'd been going. I do think like overall it's not perfect. It's far from perfect. But I think that of all the very likely even bad ways that the Bomb and Dumas fight could have ended, I think having it end the way it did, where Bomb didn't defeat Dumas, but he impressed Dumas. And not only did he impress Dumas, he impressed a weakened, a nerfed version of Dumas. So I think of all the bad ways it could have ended, that is like solid enough. But one thing that when I woke up early this morning, I kind of thought of, it kind of hit me. Remember when CU took that last break between the Nest saga and starting the Declaration of War saga? One of the reasons given for CU taking a break was to plan out the next arc. And then we go into the hotel arc. And I feel like some people complain about the Kun stuff toward the end, but aside from that, I see no complaints. I think that it's probably one of the most solid arcs in the series, especially when we're talking about Season 3 stuff. I think that most people seem to really like the hotel arc, or at least view it as like good writing work by CU. So the hotel arc was really good. It was really solid, and I think honestly, going into the Sprout, other than like, yeah, people are going to complain about the Rack and Kun power-ups. I personally don't really mind the Rack one that much. I think it's fine. I've said this a million times. The Kun one's bad, but I feel like Kun's character's been assassinated like a dozen times over by now. Kun's character has been dead and buried kind of a bit, so it's again something where, yeah, I can say it's bad, but also like Kun's character's been here, first time. So I think that honestly, other than those things that of course people are going to rightfully have complaints about, I think the biggest issue has been things like, throwing in Revolution, and then it's been months and we don't see them. We have Bomb versus Dumas get underway and we cut away for a month or two. We are kind of cutting away from really hype, really important stuff with the family heads, and also the family head stuff feels like it's, instead of being this big climactic final thing, it's kind of coming weirdly early compared to other things. We say that Cha has to go after some high ranker for some reason, and then the fluffy hat guy shows up. Why even introduce that if you're not going to continue with it? Because now if we do continue with it, it feels like a step down from family head stuff, as much as I would enjoy getting to it. And CU's kind of had that problem a little bit since like Floor of Death, of introducing things and then saying, nah, forget about it, it's not worth, actually following up on. And, that's something definitely worth criticizing. Like, just don't introduce that, like, don't bring Fluffy Hat Guy back in to begin with if you're not actually planning to do anything with that. It feels like a lot of this arc has been very messily organized, and I think, honestly, what I thought of this morning is that CU probably should have taken a break after the Yurik versus Murchia fight, and then used that break to plan out the organization of this arc, because I think that's really the biggest thing hurting this arc. I think that what we've had so far, if we were presented it in a better, more organized way, could definitely be better. I think that doesn't fix everything. There's the power-ups for people to complain about, but it is what it is, kind of. But also the fact that the fights feel like a lot of them have taken a long time, and for some of them that long time taken didn't really mean anything. Like the branch leader fights. Compare that to like having one or two solid chapters giving us the Haracha fight, giving us the Kendrick Deal fight. I keep saying things like this. A half chapter devoted to the Chonhee and Hasacha fight, which I thought was really great, and that was only half a chapter. We got so much of that in the Nest. But then we spend multiple chapters on these branch leader fights, and it's like, what do we know about the branch leaders in comparison to these, like, to Yasracha's division commanders? We know so much less about them as characters, and they felt so much less impressive as characters. I feel like better organization and spending the time better is something that could really, really help. And I think that's something that I mentioned before Tower of God shares with One Piece, where One Piece, when it has like a 30 to 50 chapter arc, incredible, immaculate. When One Piece tries to go over 100 chapters, it's messy, it's drawn out, there's a lot of wasted time where you're like, okay, we could have done this in less time, or we could have taken the time we spent on this and developed the characters more in it. And Tower of God's much the same, where we get some of these, you know, maybe 20-some, 30-some chapter arcs, and it's great. But when some of these arcs start to carry on, and the Sprout's gotten there, where you can look at it and be like, you know, there was time wasted. There was like, we could have done this in much less time, or we could have spent the time that we did spend on this to get more development out of it. So I think it's running into a similar problem of One Piece with these long, bloated arcs, where when you get to a certain size of arc, it's maybe not even, again, the arc size's fault. It's more the fault of CU writing week to week, and a lot of this just not feeling super, super organized. And I feel like taking a break to actually think out and organize and structure the Sprout arc ahead of time probably would have given us a much better product. But yeah, with all that aside, and before I start reading, I wanted to say a big thank you to the people who watched, it was like a couple dozen people have already watched the video I posted earlier today where I watched all of the PVs for Fall 2024 anime. I really, really appreciate that, because I spent a lot of time on it, and I was like, I spent so much time on this, and I'm expecting next to nobody's going to actually watch it. I didn't monetize it because I was running into so many issues with copyright. I re-edited it 3 times, and then finally it was like, okay, you can post this, but you can't monetize it, and it can stay up. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. I'm not going to monetize it. I just want to post the video for the sake of posting the video. I just want to share it. So I want to thank the people who did watch that. And also, sometime later this week, I will try to do something that I've been talking about doing for a long time now, and that's doing a reread through of Tower of God on stream in the Japanese translation. I said a while back that I wanted to do a Japanese reread of Tower of God, and I think I'm going to start doing it sometime this week. That way, killing two birds with one stone, I can get time to practice foreign languages by rereading through the series in foreign languages. And also, I've had multiple people ask me to do a reread of Tower of God on like video or stream. So, you know, kill two birds with one stone. I can reread Tower of God, maybe teach you all a little of what I know about Japanese, even though it's not perfect. It's good enough to read books. I've read like a good chunk of One Piece and Bleach by now. So I'll start doing that sometime this week, I hope. I've also been saying for like a month now, I really want to start streaming gaming stuff. I'd love to go back through the FromSoft, like Soulsborne catalog of games. I'd love to replay all of the Pokemon regions. And when I do that, I'm going to make a Twitch. Well, I already have a Twitch. I just haven't ever streamed on it. I'm going to stream that on Twitch, and then I'm going to make a second channel to post the VODs to. Just because I've always said with this channel, as much as YouTube hates and holds you back and screws you in the algorithm for having variety, they want you to just post about one specific thing. I want to have variety. I just want to use the channel to share things. So, you know, I want to keep up variety here, but multiple hour-long gaming VODs from Twitch is kind of way off of what the main channel does. And also, if I ever run into copyright again, if I want to replay the Pokemon games, that's Nintendo, and they can be crazy sometimes. So if I ever run into any copyright issues, it'll be helpful to keep all that stuff separate. Push it somewhere else. So I will make a second channel that I'll post the Twitch VODs to. But if I do those Tower of God streams, it'll be here on the main channel. Anything like, you know, manga, manhwa, any streams related to that kind of stuff will be here. So I just wanted to bring that stuff up, and wow, this has turned into a long Haku intro, so let's start reading. We have a warning this time. Let me double check, make sure you can see everything all right on screen. Okay. Alright, we have our warning, which is, again, we get it basically every week, and it's not super helpful. And we're actually seeing the whacking stick being used on Edwan here, I guess, continuing that flashback we had. Once again, you made life more difficult for everyone else by throwing your spears without asking first. You let yourself be provoked by the enemy, and you threw your spears on impulse. This was all your own fault. Ow, jeez, that hurts like hell. Seriously, I can't believe how much that hurt. What is that thing? This is the Jade Awakening Stick. When any of us places our sins on the scale of judgment, and the scale finds us to be guilty, the stick is able to break through any defense so that the person can be punished. What? That's such an unfair item. Who the hell made something like that? The head librarian of the workshop. They're calling them head librarian. I wonder if that's just a weird translation to call them librarian rather than like father or head researcher. What? That old man? I asked him to make it. Someone needs to act as the judge whenever problems come up among us. And we have V. V? But why would you give Gustang something so dangerous? Because Gustang is the best man for the job. I really like the way that Gustang's character's been built up lately. Best man for the job? Based on what? Think about it. Let's say Gustang did something wrong. Knowing how uptight he is, I bet he'd be so disappointed in himself that he'd beat himself over the head with that stick right away. And a lot harder than anyone else would, too. And I think what we've seen throughout all the flashbacks we've seen this arc is that by the time of the Amazu flashback, he was just so far gone with the rest of the family heads that he was kind of buying in to the Kool-Aid, so to speak. Like, it doesn't matter the real history, it matters the history we put out there, and, you know, kind of going along with what Traumare said, wanting to trust Traumare, wanting to believe in Traumare. I think all of that kind of stuff, it felt like he was in on the Zahard Empire stuff, but it felt like he was just in on it because he didn't want to stir anything up. He wanted to, like, trust in his friends. But then I think the big thing that, again, my theory, the big thing that changed it for Gustang is probably going to be the N incident, which happened relatively more recently compared to a lot of this other stuff. So I feel like once the N incident happened, especially because of it being princess stuff, it involving Zahard, stuff that Gustang, all from what we heard in Floor of Death, had a hand in, I think that that's when he started to see, okay, the cracks have formed too much. That's when he started to see, like, that he had to do so. I think that's what changed him. He probably started blaming himself to a certain degree. And also remember that during all of this, during basically all the time that we've seen Gustang in the series, he didn't actually have all of his memories. So he didn't really remember all of this stuff. And now he was like, okay, I wanted to believe Traumare. There was that inkling of doubt, so I didn't let them kill Enkidu. I wanted to trust my friends, but now after all this, I need to get my memories back in check. And now we're seeing Gustang with his memories back, and him realizing what he planned with Belarir and Revolution. Gustang being like, okay, it's time to tear down the family heads in Zahard, including myself. Like Gustang is always including himself there. And a lot harder than anyone else would, too. Gustang's his own worst critic. V. That's what makes him perfect to serve as judge. And I think this too, building Gustang's character like this, is really good because it leads into, out of all the 10 family heads, Gustang is the one who first kind of, again, snapped out of it. He's the first one we know of to say, okay, I need to try to get my memories back and to try to tear down the other family heads. So it makes sense with what V's saying here, that that's why we see him be the first here. That makes sense. That perfectionistic freak can't stand making mistakes. True, I bet he'd be so frustrated with himself that he'd smash his own head open. Hey, is that how you all see me? You're so honest that you'd throw yourself into a fire if you ever told a lie, says Zahard. And you may be a little too single-minded at times, but you're more sincere and dependable than anyone I know. Plus, he's always the first person we worry about disappointing when we do something wrong. That's true. You're perfect for the job. It's so crazy and cool seeing, like, just V and Zahard as friends. Gustang, And so, I accepted the role of judge that they assigned me. But I had no idea at the time that it would someday result in spilling the blood of my own companions. And now we're seeing that spilled blood. If I had known that, would I have accepted the Jade Awakening stick back then? I suppose there's no way of knowing. They thought I was the ideal person for the job. I'm sorry, Gustang. I'm so sorry. And yet I failed to punish the one person. Interesting. I killed them all. Who is this going to be? We have pink and purple. Is this going to be Arlen because of the pink sleeves? We've seen her with pink sleeves before. Is it going to be Blossom and Gustang couldn't bring himself to punish her for something? Is it going to relate to Icarus? It's alright, Blossom. Okay, so it is Blossom. This is cool. This is our first real shot of Blossom. That's so cool. It's alright, Blossom. It's okay. And he's blaming himself because he couldn't judge Blossom, whom I really should have punished. And now we're getting into Blossom committed some crazy sin that he couldn't punish. She killed them all at some point, maybe again in relation to what happened that day. I still feel like they were like, that day, the tower natives did something like really, really bad. My personal theory is I think what happened with the Icarus situation is that the tower natives killed Icarus, and then maybe from what we're seeing here, maybe if the tower natives killed Icarus, then maybe Blossom responded by killing the tower natives that did that. You know? Again, it's probably more complicated than that, though, because it made it seem like all of the family heads were involved. But we're getting into some deeper stuff here with Blossom. The battle between the family heads, Traumaray versus Gustang 5, and we still don't know why Irure's family wanted her to spy on Bomb and help Bomb, and we don't know if that family was the Eurasia family as a whole, and Blossom was the one directing Irure to, spy on Bomb, work together with Bomb and stuff, or if it was just the Fonsecal family and maybe Blossom doesn't even know about it. That's better. Like, we don't know if it was because I know some people would, for some reason, say in the comments, oh, the Fonsecal's part. Yeah, obviously. The Fonsecal, I mean, like, we don't know if it's the full Eurasia family or if it's just, like, the subset, just the sect, just the Fonsecal family, who are the ones who have some sort of goal, some grand scheme going on in the background. That's better. I'm glad that silly mask of yours is finally broken, although I don't particularly like having to look at your smug face. Gustang, do you really need to see this pointless fight through to the end? Pointless? What makes you think that? I love the whacking stick, the bonking stick. It's so good. It's like possibly my favorite weapon in Tower of God, because it's like, okay, you've seen swords, you've seen spears, you've seen sword, spears, all these other weapons, daggers. Like, give us just a one-handed whacking stick. I love it. This is my chance this is finally my chance to knock some sense into someone I've always wanted to beat up. Doesn't that alone make this worth it? He looks like a baby here. You arrogant fool. He's spreading out sheets of Shinsu. You're going to regret that decision very soon. And summoning his big orb of creatures again. Come and get me. We have more of them being summoned out. And it's again like this gold melded together mass of animals. And again, I wonder if the gold melted together animals are like when he was absorbing the souls out of the ones that were dead and leaving their bodies behind. I wonder if these are just the souls kept alive by Shinsu when we see them like this. And again, there's a lot of weird things, because that looks similar to the Serpent Master, but not really because of the thing on the head. This thingy has red horns, and, you know, always be suspicious of red horns in Tower of God. This one looks like the odd-eyed cobra, only kind of not, but we have other snakes, so it's like, I don't think it's the odd-eyed cobra. We got a wolf in there, but we don't know if that's like the wolf. Now they're all turning red. Or maybe just bleeding. Oh no, they're actually melding together. Oh, he might be doing something similar to creating a chimera like Rashut. Is he finally summoning it? The last of his 3 sea dragons. So last of them. Okay. We were his own companions, and yet not even we knew much about it. So, God, there's so many questions. I don't think Leviathan counts as one of the 3. Because we saw the 3 eggs, but Leviathan would have already been around when he gave up his memories during the Yamazu flashback. So Leviathan should be older than the 3. So Leviathan shouldn't count. I don't think. Unless Siyu's just, you know, only human making mistakes, unless he messed up with the timeline. So then it's, we know for sure, Enraged Rapid. Does Vanquish was called Poison Dragon. Does Vanquish count? Vanquish really didn't look like the others, if it counts. So I guess if this is the last of the 3, but Vanquish felt honestly kind of underwhelming compared to Rapid. So if Vanquish is one of the 3, Vanquish, you know, not the height of the dragons. We were his own companions, and yet not even we knew much about it. Very cool looking design going on here. Dragon of Passion. Okay, this looks very cool. This is a really great design. Valhalla. I love this design. Just these massive, ridiculously long see-through wings veiled around it. And then what is this face? This is the second time we've seen this face within the orb. And it's like this thing has arms wrapped around all the creatures. So is the thing in here Valhalla, but it also has this part of itself sticking up, like physically summoned out of the orb? Similar to how Enraged Rapid has its like physical body, but also this like sort of what is it, the like ghost Leviathan from Subnautica that comes out of it, the like kind of energy see-through one. Because this thing looks crazy. This thing looks even crazier that's in the orb. It looks like it's got its arms wrapped around everything. After the war ended. Cool. I never thought I'd need to summon this dragon again. Likewise. I've only ever seen that dragon a handful of times. But it gives me a strange sense of dread every time I see it. Valhalla. You may kill him. And it nods. Although I'm beginning to understand now why that dragon creeps me out so much. And then it looks like it almost vanishes or splits apart as a bunch of different animals are sent out. We see the light from Gustang's cigarette. Just one more thing for me to destroy. You poor creatures deserve a better master. I'll set you free soon enough. He cuts through with the bonking stick, the whacking stick. We're seeing into one of their eyes as they're being cut through. And even more just keep spawning. Gustang keeps cleaving through them all. And see, again, I think this is really good, where I talked last time about a bunch of wasted space, not giving us new information and stuff. With this, it's like, okay, Gustang slashing through one, Gustang slashing through another. It's repetitive, but it's all new visual information each panel, and the panels aren't ridiculously long with a bunch of space that's not really being used for anything. We're actually like seeing, okay, the one opens up, more creatures come out, he slashes through, and then he slashes through the, you know, big one that they're all coming out of. Like, this is an example of, I think, just a better structure than some of the ones I was talking about in the last two chapters. Where it's like there is some, like, stuff that you could say, okay, it's not needed, but I think a story should have just things that add to it that are just for flavor, more than what's needed. But it doesn't feel like anything is not telling us anything. It doesn't feel like anything is just clutter on screen without any information in it. God, what an ugly looking thing. Then we have Traumery still looking like just a toddler here, coming in close range. He makes another spiral of the sheets of Shinsu and directs them outward. That is, again, from what we know about them just having the ability to just cut through anything, essentially. That is a devastating attack that he can use them like this. But we also know that because of the way the Bonkin stick works, that no matter his defenses, he's defenseless against it, which will send him flying. But Gustang said he was going to, you know, strip him of his, you know, godliness, his godhood, and send him back down, and then let the people of the tower judge him and decide what to do with him. How is Gustang just going to hit him in the head until Traumery is just irregulariant? We have all of the sheets fluttering around after that attack. Gustang actually... So I thought when Gustang dodged this move, I thought he was going to take the opportunity to just thwack him in the forehead right there. But apparently not. We have the sheet spreading out, and then Gustang spins into a kick. And Gustang kind of, like, you gotta give it to him. Kind of hilariously caked up here. And then we see the two of them clashing throughout the air. The more we get these kind of panels of the multiple bits of action happening in one panel, the more and more I tend to not like them, though. I think we see them too often, and a lot of the time they're not very good. Shinsu reinforcement. He leaps. And it looks like Traumery is still managing to keep distance. You'd better watch yourself. Oh, he gets in close with the bonking stick. Erg. It looks like he barely avoids this one this time. And then Valhalla comes in to protect. I'm not going to say it. Those of you who watch ORV, you know. Okay. Now we have a massive blast from Valhalla, it seems like. God, I love the design, though. I love the big see-through wings that are just way too big for its body. I love it. And the way its tail is just basically just braided gore down into like a fish-like tail. It's so good. I will say the little green shiny bits opened up like that. I don't know why. Kind of giving me Ben 10 vibes. I guess it's kind of very it is a bit Ghost Freak shaped. Wouldn't you say? So we see this fan then of the wings. And let me try to tell what's going on here. Is it firing an attack or trying to defend against another attack from Gustang? Because it forms up what looks almost like a shield of wings. But then it looks like we have a spear-like blast. Okay, no, I think it is. I think it looks like the attack is coming up from here and then getting deflected at a right angle away this way. So I think it maybe was defense from one of Gustang's attacks. And we have another chunk of the sprout being destroyed. The sprout's not having a good day. And even after deflecting the attack, it looks like Valhalla is reeling back from it. And now again, I can't tell. I think that's Gustang slicing through the wings. Or is it the wings just coming apart, slicing through the bits of sprout flying through the air and forming up into a counterattack after its deflection? I think that's what it was, because now it looks like they're going in towards maybe Gustang. But again, it's going to be a little critical, and that, you know, it's a little tough to follow. I'm trying to follow, and maybe that's one of those things that sometimes, like, obviously you reread for your second time, and it's like, oh, it's much more clear now. Now that I've already read once, it's a lot clearer what's happening. But just trying to read it through on my first time here, it's a little tough. It looks like it might have sent Gustang through one of the walls of the sprout, though. But there it is. So yeah, I think maybe Gustang went through one of the walls of the sprout here. We see the edges of his coat are tattered a little. And then there it is. They see the inside, the arena. Okay, so the goal was to get to the arena. So I wonder then if one of them is going to use that. I mean, obviously, probably, since we're seeing it here, one of them is probably going to use that to try to get some sort of sneaky condition fulfilled, you know? Did the damage from all the fighting expose it? Only one of the 10 family heads would be powerful enough to cut through all those vines. And now we have Gustang dodging through the wings that are coming together again, it looks like. But then it looks like they close in together in an instant and brings Valhalla right there up in front of him. I sure hope my hunch isn't wrong, but I have a feeling. And that looks like him being reflected in one of the green bits on Valhalla. That Amazu's dead body might be in there. Are we going to have some sort of nonsense where Bomb just brings Amazu back to life or something? And then there's this massive... Again, I really wish CU did a better job of making this easier to follow. Because it's difficult to tell if this is Gustang attacking into this cradle of wings that Valhalla is in, or if Valhalla made the cradle of wings and is firing a blast out of it. It's kind of hard to tell which direction. It looks like, I think it was blasting out. That would make the most sense to me logically, and Gustang's just tanking it, blocking it with his hand or something maybe. I almost let it bewitch me. Whatever's in there is powerful enough to mesmerize even a family head like me. Okay, so it's not like a blast as in like a hyper beam. It was more just like a light, like a light shining from that, engulfing him, being sent outward. But Gustang's busting through it. I better be careful not to look directly at it. We have more attacks from the edges of the wings coming in, but he's weaving them. And he gets his distance from it. Dodging through more of its attacks. And it spreads its wings again. Gustang still zigzagging back and forth. I think it It looked like, I don't know, it charged up some blood and then sent itself flying towards him. She's so fast. See another blast of energy. Not to mention sharp. Her power and speed almost match those of the 10 family heads. That is some crazy scaling. That we have a near family head level Shinhale, essentially. And she'll keep regenerating as long as Tromare lives. What a nuisance. And to make matters worse, that jerk isn't even alone. So are we setting up, since Bomb said that Damas was near family head level, and now Gustang is saying that Valhalla's near family head level, is this us setting up Damas versus Valhalla? That jerk isn't even alone. So that it kind of, we set up those two fighting so that it isn't kind of a 2v1 like it is right now, with Gustang getting 2v1'd by a family head level and near family head level threat. That jerk isn't even alone. And he creates, again, I think this is a really cool application of the disconnect attack. He forms up more of them and sends them out again. And then we have Bomb coming in, it looks like. Set the irregular. And see, Bomb actually, the condition for Bomb was to make it to the arena without getting caught by either of the family heads. So if those two, like, if Tromare is attacking Gustang to keep Gustang from getting to Bomb, and Gustang is attacking Tromare to stop Tromare from getting to Bomb, and Bomb makes it to the arena first without getting caught by either because they're too busy trying to stop each other from capturing him, then Bomb fulfills his condition and gets his freedom. We have this explosion coming from the cigarette being thrown that we've seen from Gustang before, and he's bringing out the library, which Tromare had thought to himself was bad news. Oh no. Oh no, the library. That's such a Tower of God line. We know the stronger you are in Tower of God, the dumber you are. We know that White hates to count to 3. We know that Yuri hates books. And now Tromare, just seeing it has him quaking. Oh no, the library. This is such a high ranker moment. Gustang's library. Jeez. Texto. Mucho texto. Records, a collection in book form of truths, falsehoods, and historical facts written down by someone or information recorded directly by means of someone's statements or actions. Gustang's library is completely packed with such records, by taking books off the shelves and either reading them out loud or copying out their contents. Gustang is able to manifest the contents of the records in this world, and this applies not only to physical objects, but also to actions, perceptions, changes in causal relationships, or even non-material phenomena such as natural disasters. We're developing further what Gustang's powers are. He grabs one of the books. Since you all are so uneducated, I'm going to read a book to you. One of the only literate high rankers, seemingly. Those on the outside call him a great prophet. Lacking a true god of their own, they had to invent one, and so became to occupy a position somewhat like that of a creator in their myths. And now I summon him, from a book passed down for countless years, a book that was not fiction to begin with, but which has become so. Manifest yourself, great fire-bearing giant. Is this Prometheus? Prometheus, yeah. Okay. So he can just basically say, I read about this myth, let me make it real. I read about this fictional novel, let me summon the characters from it. And then, of course, we have sneaky Tromare looking up Prometheus' skirt. Plant your flames of death in the ground. It pours out flame from the vase that it's carrying. Really great style with the design too. And then we have the wings coming in to defend Valhalla again. Gustang. The book refers to it as a watcher from a distant star, a sacred creature with 6 wings. In its hand it holds the sword of judgment, inspiring awe and terror in all who behold it. Manifest yourself. Is this going to be Seraphim? Okay, so this is the same things he had summoned earlier then. Seraphim. And we see a massive one behind all the smaller ones. Okay, and then we end there. So yeah, he can just read about anything and make the things he reads real. Similar to how we saw he and Tiara writing things into reality before. But it seems like there's probably a level of more power and maybe even more ease in summoning things that someone else has written instead of writing things into existence. It feels like it would take less energy to do, and it also feels like there'd be some level of, since you're not making it on the spot, somebody else has like fully fleshed it out and developed it before you, it feels like there's greater power there. But yeah, this actually, the only bad part was Bomb being there for a panel, but this was an incredibly good chapter. It was very long. I love from the beginning. Let me just show the credits on screen. Give me a second. I love, like I said earlier in the video, the characterization of Gustang here. It's been so good. The development of him further has been great. We had that a lot with Traumerei for like dozens of chapters, so to now be getting that kind of level of writing for Gustang is like really nice. I think his powers being developed is very cool. I love the Jade Bonkin stick. It's great. I really like Valhalla. Valhalla is super, supremely cool. I'm trying not to get too attached because I feel like Gustang could just slice her to bits. But very cool character. Sea Dragon, I guess they count as characters. It's weird though, so Vanquish is the second, I guess? Unless we're saying that maybe... Unless we're saying, for whatever reason, Siu was just kind of off on the timeline a bit, and Leviathan is the first of the Sea Dragons, and then the second is Rapid, and then the third is Valhalla. It's weird, because Vanquish just seemed less impressive than the others, and also both Vanquish and Rapid seemed like they were mindless creatures being controlled by Traumerei, whereas Valhalla and Leviathan both have minds of their own. One thing I will say though is I've liked the consistency in naming from CU when it comes to the members of the Popedao family, pretty much all of them being French authors, with one exception being a Russian author, and now Gustang's ability to summon things from writing, or like mythological things from both Greek mythology and now Christian mythology with the Seraphim too. I think that that's really cool, and it's very consistent. I wish the naming schemes were more consistent for Traumerei. I feel like for the Lopobia in general, CU's been extremely inconsistent. Because how cool would it be if, as we were getting these branch leaders, we were like, oh, this is the leader of this branch, and this was the leader of this branch. So then, when Traumerei pulls out something really cool, we could tie it back and be like, this is what that branch is named after. That's so awesome. That's so cool. We haven't really been getting that. And also, it's like, okay, Traumerei controls 7 creatures himself, and we have some that follow this naming pattern that's really cool. The Arrogant Kraken, Arrogance, Pride. The Enraged Rapid, Enraged, Wrath. Slothful Elgor? Lazy Elgor. Lazy Elgor, Sloth. But then you have like Hairtail Fandor Harp, which is, or Harpe. Hairtail Fandor Harpe, and it's like, okay, that doesn't really follow the naming scheme. Poison Dragon Vanquish also doesn't really follow the naming scheme. Valhalla also not really, like, I don't know, Valhalla is a weird name for a dragon. I don't know. not the hugest into the name, I would say. The design's awesome. I love the design. Not the hugest into the name. And I wish CU had been more consistent with Tromeri's creatures as names and with the branches of the Lopobia family's names, because that's, again, something that I feel like would have helped so much or been so much better if it was more organized, because that's usually what you get in most like shonen or long-running series. Most of this stuff is like hinted at or set up like way ahead of time and really organized, so you're like, oh, this is from this group of people, or this is one of these things that we were hinted at before. And that's how it was with Tower of God, where it's like we're hinted at the Slayers, so anytime you see a new Slayer, you're like, oh, that's cool. We're hinted at the family heads. You see a family head and you're like, oh, that's cool. But then as we get later into the series, sometimes CU just introduces things and then forgets about them, or introduces things without building them up, and sometimes they're still cool anyway, so it doesn't matter, or they're still well written anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But it just hasn't been as well organized as it was earlier on, or as a lot of other series are, and I would like to see better organization moving into the future. Like I said at the beginning, even for this arc itself, it would have been really nice if it was more well organized. And there was something else I wanted to say, but now that I'm here, I'm forgetting it. Now that I finished that last thought, I am forgetting it. So I guess I'll just call it here. This is 46 minutes of recording, so I'll go ahead and run to the outro. I guess anything more I have to talk about, I can just talk about in the future somewhere. So like, if you did like the video, comment down there to tell me what you thought of this chapter, my first thoughts and reaction. Oh, I wanted to say I thought it was really cool in the flashback, seeing the interactions between the younger family heads there. Yeah, that was cool, especially like V and Zahard. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe, follow on Twitter if you want. If you want a link to the Discord server, it's free and open for anyone. Like I said, sometime this week I'll maybe try to do the Japanese Tower of God stream. By saying it in this video, I've kind of locked myself into either doing it or lying. So if you want to help support the channel by dropping a super thanks, that's appreciated. If you want to help support the channel and also get One Piece videos early, also get your name at the end of every video, then hit join down below to become a channel member. Go to patreon.com/Haku of the Tubes, or the link will be in the description to become a patron. Thank you to people who are patrons and members. Thank you to Chosen Regular Evan Hawley, Magical Girls, Nono, Abyss Knight, JA, and VD Band, Cheriton Students, David Langstaff and Folded Ghoul, Slayer Candidates, SG and Stan Cedar, and Pure Element, Pate Ardialo. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.